Transporter Refueled is the fourth film in the Transporter franchise. It is directed by Camille Demare, who was the director of Brick Mansions and the editor of Transporter 3, Columbiana, Lockout, and Taken 2. Apparently Camille wanted to direct another movie, and this is what we got. Ed Skrein replaced Jason Statham in this movie, and that's exactly what I felt like he was the entire movie, just to replace it for Jason Statham, instead of putting his own spin on things. But Garrett, he's playing the same character. How is he supposed to put his own spin on things? I can hear you now. But, rebuttal to that, James Bond is replaced all the time, and even though it's the same character, each actor puts his own spin on it. Daniel Craig is so much different than, like, Roger Moore. You can't tell me that they're not the same character, even though they have different spins on them. And it doesn't help either that Ed Skrein has more one-liners than Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 90s.
You're fired.
If you've never seen any of the Transporter movies, you wouldn't know what they're about. Transporter is a getaway driver for criminals. I personally have a guilty pleasure for the first two Transporters movies. The Transporter 3 movie is complete trash. But the first two are really entertaining, and Jason Statham was a lot of fun to watch in those movies. In this movie, Frank Martin, the Transporter, is attempting to get 4 prostitutes out of a prostitution ring. The main villain is this Russian guy who I don't even remember the name of because he's that forgettable. His character is one of the goofiest action movie villains I've seen in a long time. In the opening scene, he goes to a prostitution house and like rolls up, and he's basically like, "Hey, this is my land now." And he wipes out all the guys who are working there, and he looks at the prostitutes and he's like, "Now get to work," and just drives off and just leaves all the recently murdered pimps on the ground. And I'm not even kidding when I say in the next scene or 2 scenes, it shows the villains in a cruise ship, and it shows a flashback of the scene that we just saw like 2 seconds ago. To me, this says the director is telling us, hey, in case you have dementia or you're a moron, here's the scene you just saw in case you forgot these guys. One of the bad guys, I swear, every single scene he's in, he's this bald guy, and I swear, he's in the background of the shot, and in the foreground, there's some prostitute's butt, and he's sitting there and he's like, each time he showed up, I couldn't stop laughing because it was just hilarious. Now you're thinking, maybe this movie could be saved by the fun fighting and hand-to-hand combat. Not exactly. Fighting in this movie is like a sissy fight. There's a scene where he's in a very narrow hallway and there's drawers on either side, and these guys are like getting ready to fight him, and he just brings out the door and like hits him in the side of the head. And when he brings the drawer out, it doesn't seem like it's coming very hard. It's just like, you know, kink. And he hits this guy in the head, and you would have thought this guy would have gotten nailed in the face with a baseball bat by the way he fell on the floor. It's just not very realistic, and it doesn't really have a good gritty look where you're like, oh dang, that must have hurt a lot. The jumpy editing doesn't help either. Seems like action movies nowadays are just forgetting how to film action. Like movies like John Wick and The Raid film action so well, and they're so entertaining to watch, and they're so gritty, and you feel like you're actually getting hurt. Why can't movies be more like John Wick or The Raid? Like, why can't we have nice things? This movie also tries to be like Jackie Chan in the way that he fights with the things around him in his environment, but it does it so poorly. At one point they're fighting in a room where there's a wall of weapons, like axes and swords and a bunch of like old weaponry, and we think with all those convenient weapons he would grab one of them and use to fight. And what does a transporter use? A life preserver. He then continues to put said life preserver over the bad guy to where the bad guy's like this, and what does the bad guy say? You jerk! Like the bad guy just shouts out, "You jerk." Who wrote this script? Ray Stevenson plays Frank's father in this movie. You might remember Ray Stevens from this piece of garbage. His character had a striking resemblance to Michael Caine in the Austin Powers movie.
All right, Gold Member. Don't play the laughing boy. There are only 2 things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures, and the Dutch.
What?
He at one point in the movie has a threesome with 2 of the prostitutes that they picked up. One of which, I might add, just got shot in the scene previously. Literally the scene before they have the threesome, she was shot, like in the side. Then after they bang, him and Frank are in the car, and his dad's like, "Man, prostitution it's just a disgrace. I can't believe they degrade women like that. Good thing we banged him, right? He doesn't say that verbatim, but he's talking about how bad prostitution is. And I'm like, dude, you just bang those girls. Like, what? You don't even have a stable relationship with them. Like, who wrote the script? Not only is Frank's dad absolutely ridiculous, but he and Frank have zero chemistry. The dialogue between these two was so absurd. There's this one scene where they're at Frank's house, and his dad's wanting to make coffee in a machine, and the dad's like, how do you work these things? It's like you need a PhD to work these. And Frank goes, don't you have a PhD? Who wrote this script? I swear, whoever wrote the script was a 5-year-old. At one point, there's a plane in the movie, and the number for the plane is 669. Yeah, and I kid you not, the main bad guy in this movie is like pointing a gun at the girls and says, I'm going to rape you. What? I just find it hard to believe that no one else laughed uncontrollably like I did in the editing room and said, hey, maybe we shouldn't have that line. Maybe he should say something like, a bad guy would say instead of, I'm going to rape you. This movie tries to force romance so unnecessarily. There's one relationship between Frank and one of the main prostitutes, and the only way to back that up is they're both good-looking people, and they're the main characters. For the laws by filmmaking, they must make passionate love, which I might add is literally across the hall from where his dad is having fun sexy time with the mutant that just got shot. The actresses that play the prostitutes are absolutely garbage. There's a scene where Frank is driving them away from a robbery they just committed, and they swing around and hit one of the cop cars, and the cop car flies 400 feet in the air, and one of the prostitutes sits in the back and goes, woo! Straight face too. Completely straight face, not like, woo! It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Another one of them sounds remarkably like the main character in The Room. You remember that guy?
Did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
But you think after me crapping on this movie as much as I have that I'd give it a 1 or a 2? In all honesty, I had a lot of fun in this movie. I've laughed harder at this movie than I have in any comedy this year. So I'm going to give Transporter Refueled a 5 out of 10. Watching, guys, and know what your guilty pleasure movie is. A few of mine are the first 2 Transporters, so comment below, let me know, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.